you start to, I don't, there's so many little drunk monkeys that are going to pop up in your mind thinking about that, like, I don't deserve that. Why would I ever buy a building like that? My family doesn't do those things, all those things. Right. And the thing is you're going to end up eventually, if you are growth oriented and you want to keep, building and achieving, you're going to get to a point, it could be in 5 years, 10 years or something. You're going to wake up and go, oh my gosh, why didn't I just start with that vision in mind? And
I've had so many people on the podcast who talk about real estate. They talk about building a legacy for your family, really building a true business of real estate in multifamily. Then what they do is they get people to go out and buy properties. People go out and buy properties, and a year later you see them and they have this worn look on their face because they've been changing toilets at night. They've been taking tenant calls. They're chasing down forms that they have no idea what those forms mean. And so what I really want to do is jump into the idea of the deep, dark thing about passive income when it comes to real estate, because I think it is a myth. And so, Sandy, I am so happy to have you here and to talk about this, because I think it's something that has really been people have been misled in this topic. Do you agree?
yeah. Oh man, it's awesome to be here, Steve. Thanks for the invite and the opportunity, because I think we can create some really good stuff for your audience around this here with this conversation. Definitely passive income's got this whole, sounds amazing, right? Sounds really exciting. Sounds like freedom. A lot of people really want to earn that freedom. Many people, you're so right. Many people are led down the path of that being the solution. Hypothetically, it is, hypothetically. But what a lot of people don't learn about is the mindset, the mentality, the delegation, and those sort of things along the way that you have to buy into in order to actually make it more passive and not be a one-man show running around trying to do another job, because every property you buy is another job. It's another business. It's another business that comes with tenants, or basically kind of like employees or clients, however you want to think of that. It comes with P&L statements to review. It comes with vendor partners to work with. It comes with late night phone calls like business owners are used to receiving, all these business owner type things, right? Every single property is a new one of those. So imagine if you were a business owner right now and you have one business and you're doing okay with it. I'm sure you've ran into some problems. Now imagine buying one more of those and one more and then 10 of them, and you're trying to do that all with a smile on your face and not be worn out. It's darn near impossible if you don't have the right systems.
And systems are so important. I think Dan Martell said, if your business depends on you, you don't have a business, you have a job. And so if your property, you buy a property, and if you can't go away and not worry about that property, you have a job. And I think it was only when I really started spending time with, I think it was probably Jake and Gino. They're a training organization in the States, and they started talking about the idea of an asset manager versus a property manager. I was like, what's an asset manager? And I started to kind of like, so you have somebody who manages the people who manages the thing that does the thing, and you have an investment. That's an investment. Where if you're the person who's at the end of that rope, who's going out and driving up and parking and shoveling the driveways and that sort of thing, you have a job.
Totally. And I use the word portfolio strategist. Like, I want you to become a portfolio strategist, not because that's usually the next level before you hire the asset manager. Is you're strategizing over the portfolio. You're not managing the portfolio. You hired the management company to manage the portfolio. Or even just the one property, but you're strategizing that portfolio still. Before the asset manager comes in play, someone's got to do those things, right? Someone's still got to coordinate with the property management company, with those relationships and the mortgage brokers and the other people that you're working with through the transactions, until you've that, then you're right, you graduate to the asset you delegate that part out to the asset manager, and now you're really leveraged. Now you can really experience passive income. It takes a few stages to get there, absolutely, and a lot of people get worn out along the way. I think they get worn out along the way because they don't actually understand where they're going, or they don't understand that that's possible. And they thought they were getting into this passive income right away. Like one property was going to be totally passive income. It's like so many things in life, right? It's choosing, your hard, and choosing what's going to be hard. Is it going to be, and understanding that things are hard. It's not an investment yet. It's a business that you're buying. And when you start a business, it's not an investment yet. It's a business. It's a lot of work.
Well, and that's a big difference that I think people don't really understand when they look at buying real estate. They think they're buying real estate. The real estate is the lowest of the most important when you're buying it for the purpose of an investment. It's the income that comes through it and the level of effort that's required to get it there, especially your effort. And I think it was one thing that if you're looking at your business, so say you're self-employed, you've got a business, you're running it, you know you truly have a business if you lose somebody and your business still runs. If you can lose a person and your business will still be okay, you have a business that is scaled. If you lose one person and your whole business starts to fall apart, then you don't have a business that's scaled. And I think that's one thing that you did very early on. Probably one of the smartest things you did is you were so hell bent on building out a team from the very beginning. And you're like, how do I scale a team? And so the question to you then is why was that so important so early on? And what did you do in those early on steps to make it successful?
Great question. Because in my business journey, I did something really smart early on in my realtor journey, which was starting on a team. And I did that at the time. Uh, I mean, to be real, at the time, I just needed money, and that was the quickest path to making money. I saw that there's a little quicker path than starting from scratch and trying to build it all from scratch. And in that journey, though, spending a couple of years on a team, I really realized that first of all, I was learning a ton, and that's why it was such a great idea, because I learned on someone else's dollar for the most part of how to go through some of the challenges of team building, hiring, firing, what to look for, what I, from my perception of a buyer's agent on a realtor team, what was I seeing as valuable or not, and I got a really good perspective on that, so that when I went into growing our own team, and then of course it led to growing a property management company and other things along the way too. But when I went into that first experience of running our own team and being the only person at the start and being the one man show, I knew that I had experience learning about what it looked like building a team, hiring people and hiring the right people, and I knew that there was more freedom in doing that. I knew it wasn't going to be right away, but I knew there was more freedom in that ultimately. And I'm someone who, which is I think is a lot of entrepreneurs, is they're in it for freedom, really. Like, you want to build freedom in their life in some way, shape, or form. Freedom of, money, of time. There's other versions, but like money and time are usually pretty big ones. And so I really wanted that. I really wanted to have both of those. And usually you got to understand that you go backwards first on that, though, before you go forwards. The unfortunate part, but that's the way it is. You got to learn that and be okay with that early on, or you're gonna give up way too fast.
Yeah,
But
and
I knew that early
I
on.
think most people when they get started, they want the end game and they don't realize for them to become the person who can earn that end game consistently and reliably, they have to change with who they are today. And that change process is something means that you're not going to get it right the first time. And you got to be comfortable with that.
You got to be comfortable looking like a fool, doing stupid things, having pain, getting rejection. Those are all the things that the hype videos and everything forget to tell you about, or the things that you don't. A lot of people just either don't realize or they're not realistic about it. You're going to get a ton of pain, a ton of no's, a ton of late night calls, a ton of things that suck for a while. Totally, you're right, bang on. Those are the things that you need to learn, you need to work through, you need to experience, you need to feel the pain of it in order to understand what it looks like to do it differently. There's some things that just are not really that realistic to learn unless you experience them. And so all those experiences are vital to the growth. And then you say, I'm going to do it differently next time. I'm going to do it a little more purposeful. I'm going to do it so that it frees up my time more. A lot of people, and I probably have a little bit of a natural inkling for this, that more than most, but I also just learned this through working on myself and educating myself. But it's, you want to, I know you're big on leverage in all sorts of ways, and leverage is, when you hire someone, it doesn't equal leverage. It certainly can, but it's not leverage. Initially, you just hired basically another human that you need to now educate, train, lead. Sometimes that's like emotionally, and sometimes that's physically, spiritually, or sorry, physically, I don't know, but depends on the role. But there's lots of training, lots of stuff. You just hired another job essentially for yourself. unless you hire it in a way, that person, or that it could be an AI tool or resource that you're using nowadays. It doesn't have to be a human, but you're bringing on that leverage piece. You have to bring it on in a way that frees up your time, doesn't add to your time, and
Yeah, and that's
that's a
so
key
critical.
distinction.
And I think that goes down to one thing that I think you're extremely good at. The time that I've spent with you at your office and with your team, you really resonate with what Martel talks about. He talks about the idea is you don't rise to the level of your goals, right? You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And when you're recruiting that first employee, the first thing that happens is you start realizing this happened at Grant Cardone's office as well. Is the first thing that happens, you're like, I don't have any systems. Shoot. So now I bring them on. I got to start making up systems. I got to figure out. And sometimes the system works great. And other times you're like, that was a bad system that I chose to do. And if your onboarding is terrible, you're going to offboard more than you're going to onboard. And so it really, and that goes with whether it's employees or tenants, contractors, anybody that you have a relationship with, business partners, joint venture partners, JVs, LP, GPs, whatever it is. If you don't have a good system or model, you're destined to fail.
Yeah, you're screwed. I learned early on that I'm not the system creator. Or sorry, I can be the system high level creator. I'm not the actual implementer of let's go dive in and fine tune all this stuff and create it. So I learned early on that I need that person around. Like that's my first hire in anything I'm going to start or relaunch or anything, a new endeavor. I need that person. Some people are more in tune with that side of it than others, and I'm much more the visionary, big picture outlook type person. And so I don't excel in the nitty gritty detail oriented stuff. So I need that person on my side. And that's a huge distinction in itself. It's just that awareness of where you land on that. And it's not black and white, but you're going to be a little better on one or the other. And I just know that I need that person, and that person and I have that person in a few different areas now. And in my real estate portfolio, that's not necessarily one person. That's our property management company that oversees our portfolio for me. Eventually, I'm a little unique because I'm in the space so much anyways, but eventually I probably will have an asset manager who's overseeing even that person for me, that company for me. And that's ultimately,
That's
you
the
really
goal.
are buying your freedom in that case.
Yeah, and that's so important because I think Gary said success is about doing the right thing. It's not about doing everything right. And so I think that's really important. That was in the one thing I think it was written.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too many times people do that. And then what they'll do is they surround themselves with a lot of people that they're similar to them, which is also another mistake because they're just like they want all these like-minded people. It's like, no, you actually want people who are not like-minded around you. Somebody who's going to be a little bit of a thorn in your side saying, no, 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 we got to write this down. We got to take notes. We've got to make sure that we put a system. No, no, let's just do it. No, no, no. We've got to design a system because if this person doesn't work out, we have the system for the next person.
And you really need to humble yourself a little bit before it takes someone with with some humility to hire the people that are going to be a pain in their ass, and also give them the right information and do the things that are maybe a little different, but collectively you're going to push forward better together because you're one person's holding up one end of the ship, the other one's holding up the other end, and if you're both on the one end, that ship's going down pretty quick.
Absolutely.
So it's just something that you have to be aware of, and then stay in your lanes and prioritize. Stick with your one thing in that area that's gonna move the collective ship forward as fast as possible.
Yeah, the whole is always greater than the sum of the parts. And that designing a system is so critically important. What's the ones that when you look specifically, and I want to just zone in on property management specifically. And when somebody's looking at building the team, what's the first mistake they always make when they buy a property, either manage themselves or decide to look at hiring a property manager? Pick one of those, and which do you think somebody makes the biggest mistake right out of the gate?
Buy the wrong property. Um, or early on buying the wrong property. And why I say that is because most people buy a property to keep up with the Joneses, or to buy something that they haven't thought far enough down the line in terms of their goals and their planning and where they're headed, to make sure that that property is actually the one that's going to line them up to that vision and that future that they want. Most people buy it for very silly reasons. But they buy that property because someone told them that duplexes were the hot thing in town now, and you better buy one now before they all go away. Or someone told them that this condo building is the one. Oh my God, it's going to go up. It's going to be triple the price in 5 years once you close on it. And a lot of people pulled down that path, and they're not very happy right now in this market. So that's speculating. That's not investing. And anytime you're just grabbing onto something that someone's like selling, or your neighbor bought one, so you're going to buy one too, it might line up with your goals. But a lot of cases, people are just jumping in to get in. They have some sort of FOMO, and they're just taking, and kudos to them. They're taking action. That's a big piece that some people fail on too. But they're taking action down a path that it's good. If they can recalibrate, they can still do well with it. But if you start going too far down that one path, you end up with a portfolio of headaches because you didn't even want that in the first place, but you never took the time to just sit back and say, where am I actually headed with this? How am I building this portfolio? Is this to optimize cash flow? Is this to optimize appreciation? Is it to optimize, what are you optimizing for? And most people need an advisor, someone to talk them through that, because unless you've been down that path and done it either right or wrong and screwed up along the way, you don't really have the insights and the wisdom to actually even understand that. So a lot of people really just need some of that wisdom, which comes with working with the right professionals.
And I think the one thing that you hit really the nail on the head was when you first said they bought the wrong property. And why did they buy the wrong property? Well, because the realtor supported that decision, because their Uncle Louis told them to do it, because they had FOMO, whatever. There's the reason why they bought it. They bought the wrong property. The true reason why they bought the wrong property is because they didn't get the right advice. Now, how do you get the right advice? Well, first of all, if you're making small decisions, you get small advice. If you're making big decisions, generally speaking, you're going to get big advice. One thing that I learned really strongly from Grant Cardone is the 10X rule, and from the 10X rule book, is that when you take your goal, whatever it is, and you 10X that goal. So if I want to do a $1 million portfolio, I want a $10 million. If I want a $10 million, I want a $100 million portfolio. And then it's not that you just have that goal. You're saying, okay, now what systems and models do I have to have in place to being able to do that at that point? And then how do I bring that forward? And that's how I compress the time to get there. And so if I'm looking at it saying I want a $10 million portfolio, I could go and buy, 10 duplexes and I'm there, or I could buy one $10 million building and I'm there. Now, if I go and I buy that one $10 million building and I'm there, that might seem scary at first. But the best thing about buying that one $10 million building is that, number one, there's a lot more money on the table. So it means the lender is going to scrutinize the deal. Number two is your legal team is probably going to scrutinize the deal. Number three is maybe if you had some other partners, they're going to scrutinize the deal. So you're going to have all these other eyes. You're going to bring in a property manager always in a $10 million deal. They're going to scrutinize the deal. So there's no emotional connection that, oh, gee, but I just really love the neighborhood that this duplex is in. It's, will this deal make me money? And that's why when Grant goes and buys, he only buys big properties. He only buys Class A. He only buys things that have an income stream because he knows that when he buys that, the day that he closes, money's going in his bank account.
All that stuff you just said is brilliant. It's brilliant because the root of it, you're bang on. The root of it is that someone's thinking 2X, not 10X. They're thinking about how do I need to try and replace my income from my job, which is 75 grand. And I need to make 75 grand out of something else. You're asking yourself the wrong question in that case. And that's where someone needs to get in the headspace of that person early on and just say, because this is what I did. I started out, I bought a whole bunch of duplexes, I bought a bunch of single families, I bought a bunch of 3-unit, 4-unit, small multifamily things.
And I want to ask you this, because I remember you told me this at that one event we were at, where at one point, how many JV partners did you have? You had some ridiculous number.
Probably 30 something.
That's crazy.
30 something JVs. Yeah. And we had, and mostly smaller properties, mostly triplexes, fourplex, duplex. Like it's all good. They're good, but you learn as you go with those, like, wow, I could have, in all the time and energy I've spent in that, all the customer servicing, all the little mini headaches that come up along the way there, all the client relationships that you have to pour into. I could have, instead of buying, I think currently we have somewhere around like 40, probably about 40, under 4 units or less in our portfolio. Most of those we bought earlier on in our journey. And of those 40, if I would have just bought 4 and then said, you know what, I should go buy a 100-unit building now and spend $10 million, $20 million on it and raise the money, which would have taken me a year to do that, but it would have been one big project that would have got me thinking bigger, brought in a lot more professional advice and wisdom, got more money coming in the door quicker. I know actually at this point, I know confidently I would have spent less time putting that deal together,
Yep.
way less time servicing the deal afterwards. And I would have a simpler time managing it right now. And I would have a lot simpler, uh, repeatable, scalable process there than I do or did with those 40 smaller multifamily properties, which the biggest thing in that was just me thinking too small in the beginning. And
Yeah,
this
and
is what
that's
so many people do. And
it's so hard because
it hurts
you
them.
have these conversations because you're absolutely right. And a lot of these gurus out there that have these courses to help, and you see this in America a lot, where they want to help that tech guy, the W-2 tech employee, get out of their tech job and replace their income. Like, great, you're replacing $100,000 income a year with this. Is that really what you want? What if you just got $100,000 a month? Would that be better than $100,000 a year? And then if it is, then how do you get there? How do you compress that? And again, it goes down to really what you did from the very beginning, which was building a team and growing a business, not starting a job.
Yeah, that's so true. And you also, most people just think most people don't realize they need more than they think as well. And most people get overwhelmed with those bigger thoughts, right? You start to, I don't, there's so many little drunk monkeys that are going to pop up in your mind thinking about that, like, I don't deserve that. Why would I ever buy a building like that? My family doesn't do those things, all those things, right? And the thing is you're going to end up eventually, if you are growth oriented and you want to keep, building and achieving, you're going to get to a point, it could be in 5 years, 10 years or something. You're going to wake up and go, oh my gosh, why didn't I just start with that vision in mind? But it's hard to get out of that. And you just went 10 years down the wrong road, and 10 years down a road where, like, it's very hard to go back and replace those things. That's why I still have 40 of them. It's very hard. I don't just wake up and go, get rid of those today.
Well,
That
you were
doesn't
hoping
work.
probably for the 1031 exchange to come out.
Yeah, that would have helped. That would have helped.
That would
Then
have
I'd have a lot
helped,
more
right?
options.
Because it would have freed up those units for somebody else, maybe a multi-generational home for the duplex. So then you could move
Totally.
that into an asset class that was larger and promote more growth from an economic perspective for more units on the market.
But the team thing is the exact same concept. It's all building a business. That's why owning real estate is exactly like a business. Could be actually about the same amount of people involved in a lot of cases, but there could be less people. Running an operational business generally has a few more people involved, but same concepts. And you need to be, and people have the same issues with that. They think because they're thinking so small in their growth and where they could be in 5, 10 years, you don't attract the right people, the people that are going to come in and actually free up your time because they are excited about the vision you're going on for the next 10 years. They're buying into that growth and that exciting future. When I first hired, my first person I ever hired on my realtor team, they had an MBA. They were employed currently. They could have easily, and they were looking at other jobs, and they had jobs on the table for them to go work at with accounting firms and stuff for 100K a year. She started with me for 40 or 45 grand. I think it was 40 grand at the time. Why the heck did she join me for 40 grand versus a nice, easy, cushy accounting type job, big corporation, guaranteed good benefits, all this stuff, 100 grand a year? Why did she join me for 40 grand a year? Like, it's not because I had the certainty. Like, my business was much more risky than the 100K job at the accounting firm. I had I had drawn out a vision. I explained the vision to her about where we were going. I cast an exciting future for the next 5, 10 years together, and showed how that could look and where she could be in that journey versus the other side. And for her, it made sense. And she said, "That is really exciting. I want to be a part of that. Let's do that." And I wouldn't be able to attract that person that has an MBA and all this background and everything with a 2x vision. It has to be that 10x, that bigger vision where attracts higher level talents, higher level wisdom and insights. In most cases, when you're hiring people, especially I was just talking about 40 grand to 100 grand. That's a 60 grand difference. That's $60,000. I'm going to get, I'm going to get so much more. Like, that's $100,000 person that I'm paying 40 grand. But even if eventually they're making 100 grand, I would way rather pay that 100 grand person than what a typical 40 grand sort of talent would be out there that you see. That 2.5 times income is going to be 100 times in terms of wisdom and insights and value they bring to their team and to our clients and to the
Yep.
business, right? So that
Well,
usually doesn't go up
when you think
in
about
the
it,
same ratio.
it's almost like the planet Earth, right? The planet Earth. It's like if I take a little object and I kind of spin it in a circle on the tip of a pen, it's not really going to attract anything, right? But when I take a big ball of mass that's the planet Earth and I spin it, you get this thing called gravity, and it just sucks everything to it, and we're kind of stuck to this planet Earth. So the two things is, number one, it has to be big, but it also has to be in motion. And so what you do is you've got a big vision and a big goal, but you're also following that with massive action.
Well put. I agree with that. Yeah, totally. You have to be, it's got to be something that's, that vibrational frequency has got to be it's got to be attracting and moving. It's got to be something that's both. You need both, right? You need that vision, you need the action, and you need to. That's where you also need to know that it's going to be hard, and you're going to go through a pile of crap along the way, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Well, and just like on
Expect
the
that.
planet Earth, we've got volcanoes, we've got hurricanes, we've got typhoons, we've got all these things that
Right.
happen. And I know one thing you talk about is that, a 10x leap requires breaking something. And so when you're going in that growth mode, what are some of the biggest breaks that happen that you weren't sure you're going to get through?
I had one of these days yesterday. It's probably too early to share, but I had one of these days yesterday. I was thinking about it at night last night, and I was thinking, wow, something really exciting is about to happen. Because when I know now, most occasions when I go through something quite bad, like how the heck did that happen? That's insane. And it's like a breakthrough, like something not good in most cases. And it could be this could show up in ways where your top employee is leaving, your top salesperson decided they're out, your top client just went and worked with some other company, a competitor. Could show up in so many ways. But usually that is going to transition you into something even better, even bigger, even more exciting. And they were actually a roadblock. And this is often you screwing something up too, where your current thinking or your current way of doing things was the roadblock. And it took a big breakthrough to break that system down or that person down or eliminate them completely for you to realize, my gosh, now that that's out of the way, now I see a different path. And that could be a different insight that you just learned from that experience. That could be now a new person showed up for the role, and my gosh, this person's like, I can't believe it. They're 10 times better than that person who I loved before. And I was so heartbroken that they left, but oh my gosh, this new person. But what I also realized in that is that most people actually don't think of it that way. Most people actually go the reverse with that. And they wear that breakthrough on their sleeves, and they get hit so hard with it, and they just don't recover. Sometimes it's really small things too. For newer entrepreneurs, it's usually a smaller thing. They get hit so hard with it that it takes them weeks or years to ever recover, or they never recover, and they go, sit on the sidelines for the rest of their life. You just got to know that those are going to happen, and the quicker you can realize that that's actually going to lead to something amazing, you can forget it. You can forgive whatever. If that's often a big thing, just letting go of whatever that issue was, that person. You got to forgive them, get rid of it. Something is on the cusp of happening that's exciting, and so
Well, and that's where, like, I was sitting with Phil M. Jones. He wrote the What to Say and Who to Say It To or whatever book, and How to Say It, I think it was. I got to figure out what the title of that book
exactly
is.
what to say.
Exactly What to Say. Yeah, book. And the guy's just a legend. And one of the things he was talking about is in sales, the biggest thing that people focus on is pain points, pain points, pain points. We got to find the pain and press the pain and focus on the pain. And his pivot on that is truths, is look for the truths. And the truth is you're not making money. That's a truth. It's not a pain point. It's just a truth. And then how do I then fix that so then I can make that better? So I'm going to find the truths in the business. And so if you're looking around things in your business and the truth is that person was a great employee and they're not here anymore, that's a truth. There's no pain to that. It's just a truth. They're no longer here. And the truth is I have to replace them. And the truth also exists that there's somebody out there who could be better than the person I just had. And why could they be better? Because I'm a better person now than when I hired that person, hopefully back then. So I'm going to make a better, more effective decision. So I'm actually better prepared to hire a better person. Might not be the right time, truth, but I'm still able to do that.
So true. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and this is why so many versions of that in life. This is why new immigrants come to a new country and they're starting scratch, right? Everything that it's out the door, it's in the past. Start from scratch. and they get to be a different person almost if they want to. Same thing, like you lose a key employee, lose a team member, your business almost gets to reset and be new again. And with that, you actually like it forces you to start with a new set of directions or wisdom or systems. It almost frees you up to do that, and generally that's going to be better, right? Like if you're learning anything from what you're going through, you're going to be better at that time. So usually just helps. It's painful, but it usually helps.
Yeah, when I look at it, you look at the boat that Christopher Columbus sailed around the world or whatever, and you think about it, and you think, okay, he started off wherever, I think in Spain or whatever, and he started going, and along the way, some staff would maybe mutiny. He's got to chuck him overboard. He's got, some of the boards will have to be replaced. Sails are going to be upgraded and that sort of thing. And maybe by the end of the whole trip, the whole boat, everything has been replaced. Question you always ask yourself, is it the same boat? And the thing is, it is. And we look at ourselves and we have to look at our journey. And a lot of the things that we hold to be truths within us need to be replaced. Now, can they be replaced with something better? And that's a question we have asked ourselves so we can sell faster, sell longer, and achieve our goal in a better, more meaningful way.
Biggest tool that I use for that, because some people I believe don't actually learn the lessons along the way and they just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. That's pretty common that I've noticed. And one thing that I do often, at the very least, I love the end of the year because I do a big year long version of this. I try to do this every day in a small version and then weekly on a 15 to 20-minute version. But I love going back and reflecting on my day, on my week, on my year and quarter. We do this. This is very common in business. Like people do a quarterly review and quarterly resetting goals, right? We often don't do that enough on ourselves and our own version, like our self-development. And I find that, especially if you're trying to grow as a leader, as a salesperson, things that you don't always talk about in the business sense. So I just love going back and reflecting on those, finding the lessons that you've learned, and just thinking like, if I were to do that again, am I going to do that the same? Am I going to do it different? Is there something in there that I need to change? Is there something recurring? And when I go back on my year, it gives you a chance to go like, is there something really repetitive here that I shows up in multiple things that have come up, multiple ways, multiple issues? Usually there are. Usually there's a few things, right? That they're like, okay, I keep doing that thing. I got to obviously change that. So now I'm going to look at how do I do that differently going into the new year. And, and you kind of have to take that time. That's why people need to spend a little more time in silence and not always doing mode. It's the curse of the overachievers is you're just doing. You do so much and you never just take the time to reflect. And sometimes it's that small step back to go bigger steps forward. And I think that's a crucial thing that I've learned to do over the last 5 years for sure. That has really really helped us.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea of the person who's chopping wood, is that you can continually chop and chop and chop and chop, and you can throw as much effort into chopping as humanly possible. But if you don't stop, step back and sharpen that axe, if you don't stop and step back and analyze your swing, analyze your positioning, and know that you can improve those, you'll never, and in fact, you'll probably start chopping a little bit slower because the axe will dull. You'll start chopping a little bit slower because your muscles are going to start to hurt, and maybe grow some pains and that sort of thing, aches. Whereas if you took those breaks and reflect on it and said, how can I swing that axe in a more meaningful way? And how can I swing a sharper axe? Or even better, why don't I just hire somebody to go swing that axe? And I can go maybe hire 5 people to swing axes. And I'm just the axe sharpener now. And that's how you can really make things effective.
Hang on. And hiring is always, that becomes a bit of a thing you need to learn too, is making that the default, right? Just am I going to go fix this again, or am I going to hire something that fixes it always forever? Or hire someone or put in a system or tool or an automation tool that's going to just fix this always. And like a lot of people go into the mode of, I'm going to go fix this myself. I got to go do it. I got to go, this is too painful. I got to go fix it. As you get more comfortable sitting in some of those painful moments, you don't necessarily go right to that all the time. I'm pretty comfortable sitting in some pain now for a week, a month, a year, I guess, in some cases, where I'm going to sit in this pain because I'd rather have this pain for a week and not fix it in the moment. I'd rather have this pain for a week, but I'm going to have the solution now forever.
That's right.
After it's fixed. And that's the same concept right where we started this off of, whereas, what's that first mistake people make? They go rushing by that building because they need to solve that issue of FOMO or whatever it is. Whereas they could have just stepped back and said, "Look, I'm gonna be okay with the FOMO for a little longer here. I'm gonna set up the right plan so I actually set this up purposefully. And now the not just the first property, but the bunch of properties I buy are going to take me to that destination that I want for my life, which is always going to be different.
Yep.
Everyone's going to look a little different on
There's a
that path.
quote, and I'm going to bastardize the quote, but I'm going to use it anyways because it's fun. There was a quote that came out of the World Economic Forum, and the quote was, "You will own nothing and be happy." And
Yeah.
where you could apply this here that actually would resonate to be true is if you don't own the decision making process because you have good staff that own it, and so you have the staff that own the process. You don't own the process. They do. They take accountability for it. They own it. They make the decisions. You're going to be happy.
It's a good one. You know, I have that quote's been lingering around a lot lately, right? With elections and stuff, and you're hearing where people are so fearful of going to that point. It's actually a pretty, if you could kind of come full circle on that and realize, I don't know, maybe owning nothing is kind of a good thing in some contexts.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly how you're saying that is, if I don't own anything, there's a peacefulness to that actually.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a version of that line that is actually pretty exciting.
Like if I tell you what to do, then I own the process. If you tell me what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, you own the process. I think that's way better.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that we could probably go down a big rabbit hole on and get. I don't know what the right answer is necessarily, but definitely interesting topic to explore because that is kind of the path of the whole system right now, right? Is that you're gonna rent and not own. You're not gonna own as much in the classic sense of owning things.
Yep. Well, I mean, we look at AI, you're truly renting it.
Yeah.
You don't own it. When you look at the land we own, we just own title to it. We don't actually own it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the preconceived notion that you own it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that we perceive that we own, we actually don't own. We just
I
are
mean,
we are just liable to them.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be a really deflating thing and a really challenging thing to have that liability. And I think that's that's kind of the ultimate version of humility is that you realize in some sense, I think it doesn't matter what you want to believe in, but I believe in a God that actually owns and kind of runs everything anyways. And we're just here to serve that. And you don't own the $5 in your pocket, the $100 million in your bank account or the $10 in your bank. None of that's owned. It's all rented. And it's all just resources that are there to use, and you choose how to use them. But if you use them for the greater good, use them to serve something greater that you believe in, you're probably going to reap rewards personally as well through that process. You actually have a lot more peace in that sense when you realize that you really don't own anything anyways.
That's right. And you're going to be happy. I love it. I love it. Sandy,
You're gonna have a lot more free time too.
We were going to go into so much detail around property management, but I think the idea of just talking right at that very high level of what it really takes to run a business and owning real estate is running a business. And so you can either choose to start a business by buying a property and doing everything yourself, or you can choose to run a business by bringing in teams to work with you to run those things for you so that you have leverage. And I think that idea of, what you've done with Found Spaces and building up the property management for Southern Ontario, I think is fantastic. And I know you're growing into different resorts. I know you're out out east as well, and you're growing, potentially all across.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, and potentially all across Canada and the United States. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it's definitely exciting. I mean, it's something that we're excited to see what the future holds with that. We're going to screw some things up along the way, as we mentioned this, but that's okay. We're looking forward to the pain of that and the growth and the opportunities we can create and the fun and ultimately a lot more freedom that we can create for others too in that process. That we work together and get to serve. So it's going to be exciting. And we also got some new content coming out on my end too. That's exciting. We've got some new podcasts coming at some point.
Yeah, talk about your podcast. What's your podcast called again?
Multifamily Real Estate Insights. So we're going to be sharing all sorts of stuff around that space, Canadian based for starters, but we are dabbling into the U.S. markets as well personally. And as we grow and learn more there, we'll bring some of that back to the table too. So yeah, that's going to be cool.
That sounds amazing. Well, Sandy, thank you so much. Sandy from Found Spaces. Found Spaces, you can find him on a quick Google search. You come up right to the top. So sign of a good marketer right there. I know you're always on my YouTube channel, hammering away on my right at the beginning. So I can guarantee I'm going to see you on my phone probably in about 20 minutes. So
Stuff, good stuff. Well,
all
thanks
right,
for
guys, this is the money. This is the mindset. This is the mentoring podcast. And Sandy, thanks so much. We'll see you guys on the next one.
awesome. Thanks.